Okay, we're here today for Inland Wetlands Watercourse Commission on May 13th, Tuesday, 7:30. Introduce the commission members to my left.
Diana Ross.
Walt Vespucci.
Drew Gunning.
Jim Ewan.
Bill Perfetto.
Deborah's sitting in for Katie, and Scott Allen, our enforcement officer, and I'm Rick Miagioni. Leslie didn't go? Did she say?
Leslie Juvenile.
Oh, sorry. Okay, we're going to start off with a consideration of April 22nd minutes. Anybody have any corrections?
On page 2, second paragraph under old business, it says, the bottom of it says, erosion control at parking lot leak off. Should that be runoff?
Where are you, Jay?
It's the second paragraph under old business on page 2.
Well, I think, let's see, trees from the erosion control at parking lot leak off. That was
Leak off.
Should be leak off.
Leak off is an area where water is directed to without,
Okay.
and it's stone, usually riprap or stone line channel.
Okay.
The water migrates down through, holds the sands back, and then goes from there.
Didn't we ask for the leak off to be stoned?
Correct. That's the problem. The stone was gone. There was some erosion.
Right, but I mean, it does this parking lot leak off.
Installation of permanent erosion control at the parking lot
Okay.
leak off.
Okay, that'd be fine.
In other words, it's where the water leaks off. I mean, that's kind of the term that's been accepted, I guess.
Okay.
But it is stormwater runoff that leaks off the parking lot.
There's any other questions or?
None to be had. I move that we accept them.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? 3.
403.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. 4, 3.
So Drew,
Bill
Bill.
and Leslie abstain.
and Leslie. Thank you.
Routine business correspondence. Is there any?
Nothing.
No. That's good. New application. There's for receipt. I don't see any. New applications for discussion will be 794 Mapledale Road. Anyone here? Come on up.
I'm Robert Ziegler, the homeowner on 794 Mapledale Road.
This one?
That's that. backyard, that's the river. That's RV. Mr. Siegler spent a lot of time with Codispoti and Associates and trying to get his property surveyed out there, get the topos on there, and try to get the floodplain where it was supposed to be. I'm still not 100% convinced it's where it's supposed to be, and if you read Mr. Lieberman's comments, he seems to concur. Over here.
I have a question on the application. It says 105 square feet to be filled, wetlands, and the maps shows 186 square feet.
The 105 square feet was my estimate, but I would go with
Okay.
Codispoti.
So the flood line, Codispoti did put a flood line, or he didn't?
Well,
I see the wetland markings.
they did the wetlands and asked them to field locate the floodplain based on the firm map, and that's what they came up with. I brought the firm map with me, and right at the, where the road crosses, excuse me, where the river crosses under the road, the flood elevation is at 96, and the backyard is, as the river progresses down, it goes to 95. But if you look at your contours there, 96 is pulling right up
To the corner of the garage.
to the corner of the garage.
And that's the flood elevation's 96?
According to the firm map, it is. This would be it right here.
96.
We also have a memo dated today that I got, well, actually it's dated May 133, must have hit the history twice there. Got that upstairs from Mr. Lieberman also. The firm map show an elevation of 96 for the 100-year floodplain. This elevation must be shown based on an actual field survey and is not so shown on the current site plan. Elevation 96 is on the upstream side of the bridge, and this is where the flooding occurs caused by overflowing of the road, excuse me, of the bridge. Of the bridge. I think it should be the road.
I think Mr. Schumacher should type his comments. It's hard to read his writing.
Let me assist you with that.
Yeah, you want to read what he says? Mr. Lieberman's I could get. Did you see these comments from?
No, I did
Okay.
not.
Mr. Lieberman wrote, not acceptable as far as flood lines must be based on field survey for determination, which again, I think Mr. Siegler really thought that he had that done, and I conveyed to Codispoti that that was supposed to be done, and this is what we ended up with. But
Right.
read it as it may, Mr. Schumacher, site plan dated 2/26/08 is insufficient as to whether the proposed building addition complies with the public health code. Recent soil tests may permit the construction of an accessory structure and perhaps a building addition excluding additional bedrooms.
Can I make a comment there?
And I believe,
Go ahead.
you have gone back in to see him and
Yes.
changed your plans to eliminate a bedroom.
That's correct. That's
Okay,
correct.
so there was discussion with
Okay.
Mr. Sigler about Mr. Schumacher's comments.
From your garage, could you walk into your house or no?
Yes.
Is there a step to get in there?
There'll be a step down
Into the garage?
the garage will be level, ground level, and then step down into the basement.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're in the garage, it's going to be flush with your existing house?
It'll be 2 feet above the existing basement floor at the current proposal.
2 feet above your existing house?
Existing basement floor, yes.
So your house is much higher than, well, your basement's 8 feet below your first floor, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So you're
And
gonna,
the new garage will be 2 feet above that, so the whole structure will go up 2 feet.
Right, but to get into your house from your garage, you gotta have several steps
down,
down.
right.
Okay. And you don't know the elevation of your basement? Do you know what that is? Is your elevation of your two-car garage 96, or you don't know?
I believe it's 96 feet, and that was a site taken by Baybrook Remodeler, who was the proposed contractor for the addition.
Right.
Do you have an existing garage on the south side?
It was a garage, and it was converted to a den.
Was that
So-
done a while ago?
It was done 8 years ago.
Okay.
I was looking in the attic a little bit ago. Some of you may recall back about 5, maybe 6 years ago, there was an application to construct a single-family residence on Mapledale directly across the street from this parcel. It was the Baisley piece. And then there were photos submitted by, I believe, the house just to the south of you, where the water was always coming up over the road, and it turns out that the floodplain line shown on that site plan for that single-family house, after it was field located, the entire parcel was in the floodplain, so it was never approved. I went up in the attic to try to find which I did a little bit ago, to try to find the drawing for when the bridge was replaced out there on Mapledale back after the '82 flood. It was taken out, I believe, but in '84, Mr. Baisley applied to request to construct 2 swales to direct the floodwaters to the new box culvert under Mapledale and to the 36-inch RCP pipe that was installed. Does that go through your parcel?
No, that's the parcel next to me, that pipe.
Parcel next to you, so it goes between you and the house next to you?
Well, the house next to me, the front yard or front parcel there is part of that property, right to the road, and it goes right through that parcel.
Does someone have that color picture?
It's right there.
There was, me, sorry. Maybe you could just show me which house is yours. I mean, which house was that, where that pipe is? That's you.
See the fence line there?
Yeah.
Pipe goes straight across there to the brook right about in there. From the house up here, that's that whole property there.
So what was being pointed to here is that the pipe is right in this area, which is actually off of Mr. Siegel's property, but in this very low-lying area to
To the north.
to the north.
Right.
And what they're asking for back in '84 was to redirect the floodwaters that normally went right across that area to go try to get those back into that pipe, and then some of it back underneath the bridge again. So I'm just saying I have some concerns with this floodplain, the way it's delineated.
So it's saying the floodplain was based on scaling from the FEMA maps.
Rather than actually just
Okay.
plopping it on the... And I spoke with the surveyor directly, and he told me that he has been told by whatever classes he goes to that that's how he has to do it, which is completely different than how we normally do floodplain delineations, and I don't know why they've deviated.
If the floodplain is 96 and his contour is 96, it goes to the corner of the garage.
Are there any spot elevations on the property?
No, they actually field located those topos,
They did.
yes. When the first map came in with no topos on it at all. Those weren't done from a flyover.
Besides the septic tank, you can't drive in straight into your garage over the septic tank
No.
because of the tank?
The elevation, it is down, or the proposal is the garage would be under, and it's down.
It's too high.
Well, it's 98 and you have 96, it's 2 feet. So if you went up another 2 feet, it'd be too high?
What he's trying to say is that what they're trying to accomplish, based on our conversations in the past, correct me if I'm wrong, is they want the first floor to not have a step. So in order to accomplish that, for that master bedroom to be on the end of the house, they wouldn't be able to raise, they would have to have a garage just this tall, in other words, by the time they're done.
Right.
In so many words.
Right.
We tried to get it up as far as we could, and at this point, we do have 2 steps up to the new bedroom level.
Right.
And originally, we did want to have it the same level, but we've tried to bring it up a little bit.
Where's the septic field located?
The one in the front is basically right in front of the new addition. I had penciled it in on this map. But it is basically right in front of where the new addition would be, in this area.
And you have another one in the back?
There's one in the back as well, yes. The one in front was put in 72. And the one in back is existing from the original build.
When was that?
52, I believe.
You used both of them?
Yes.
Now, the way he got this floodplain line was just scaling it. He didn't actually pull it up. Do it.
Told me he didn't. Even after I asked him to do it. So that's where it doesn't make sense to me.
Well,
He's basically got the property right in, the garage is right in the flood zone.
Right, we have to verify that because you really can't build in the flood zone.
I don't think you want to build in the flood zone if you're going to be at that elevation either.
No, that's why I was asking
I
you to
mean-
raise it 2 feet.
Right.
And that's only 100-year. You get something a little above that, and you could get water in your garage.
Well, the other problem is
You're really close.
You've got a half a contour leeway on the floodplain. You can go one way or the other, so given that this property is so flat,
Plus or 6, yeah.
6 inches can travel 200 feet.
Yeah. Have you considered expanding out where the garage used to be and make that the two-car garage?
It's a little tight there with the setbacks. I definitely would have to get a variance. The setback line is, it's about 35 feet to the current existing house, and setback, I guess, is 25. So there's really not a lot of room there.
Just measuring off, it looks like it's right up there, like it would be really close to that. And it would be worth it to consider that alternative versus coming so close to this wetland and filling it for your paved area. Also, you could maybe get your garage up a little higher, I don't know.
But if it's 25-foot setback, he's going to be short.
I'm not talking about the full addition.
Oh.
Where the driveway comes up to the house used to be garage. So rather than do a whole two-car, convert that back and maybe put it there.
10-foot bay.
Oh, I think we need to see where this line is.
I'd like to also see where the tree line is, the existing tree line, which they can put on there. I'm looking at that, looks like the trees are close to the house.
It's all grass. Where the wetland is grass. I'll send that back over to you if you look again. It's totally grass.
This is the house. I think this is his RV.
You can see parallel to the RV, you'll see is a fence. Actually, it's a thin line there, and basically from the house right to the river is pretty much all grass. There is no tree line. There are some scattered, very scattered trees, but the majority of it is grass.
Where's the RV? On here.
It was moved from the
Yeah,
time it was
that's an
done.
old picture, but it was parked right in here.
It's an 07 shot.
Anybody else have any other concerns? Well, my opinion, I think we should verify this floodplain line, just to make sure it's not going through the garage. If anyone else has any other concerns. I think that's what Mr. Lieberman wanted too, didn't he?
Yes.
Right. And Mr. Schumacher, you talked to him, you straightened that out.
I talked to Brian.
The assistant.
Oh, the
sanitary.
assistant, yeah, that's fine, right.
Yeah. That's correct.
Is it possible to get a sense of what the commission feels about the hammerhead on the driveway and the actual filling before we send them back for
Right.
the flood?
I'd like to see them take a look at possible alternatives to that.
One of the alternatives I will say that was discussed was that they put the second floor on piers and not have a garage. Was one of the alternatives that was discussed.
But it's not gonna change the driveway, is it?
Well, it would not give them a garage to have to drive under at that point, because he could lower the building back down again and not have to step up. It'd be a very low garage ceiling, in other words.
Yeah, but you still gotta have this filling. You still gotta be driving in that way, right?
Or there'd be no garage, just have piers.
Oh, right, okay.
You putting the whole structure? The whole structure on piers?
No garage, just the addition on piers. In order for them to get the master bedroom,
And no garage?
and then no garage. And then they're not building, the piers aren't gonna have any detrimental effect as far as the flood goes.
And they're gonna keep the same existing driveway. Right?
I would think, because they can't drive.
Right.
I mean, there's no point in putting it in. Again, that was
Right.
an alternative that we discussed in the office.
Now, this may be unreasonable, but I think they ought to really consider the septic system situation. You've got two septic systems you're using, and the newest one is over 30 years old. At some point, that's probably going to need to be replaced. If that could be replaced and put in another area, then you could front load the garage, from the road. It's just that it sounds like something that will probably have to be done sooner or later.
Good idea.
Anything else?
Could I say something?
This is Scott from Baybrook Remodeler.
Hi, my name is Scott Farquharson from Ogat, Connecticut, representing Baybrook Remodelers.
Could you spell your name, please? Last name?
Farquharson.
Thank
One
you.
of the things I'm noticing is that the basement is below the floodplain, and you already have some structure that is below it. So when we raise the garage up lower than the basement floor, a couple of feet, we may even get 30 inches, we stay above the floodplain. And then the driveway itself would go back that way. But we also don't want to change the topography too much because we don't want to take soil out of there, which will encroach on the wetlands. So there are a couple of things we were thinking about when we were building it this way and designing it this way.
I'm not sure I understand what what you're saying here either about
The basement is below.
Right, saying it's lower than the 96 elevation.
It's lower than the 90.
Right,
yes.
say 94 if it's a 2-foot drop.
Right.
But back then, when they built these homes, there wasn't even any,
no ordinance.
no wetland issues or regulations. They just built. And then when their basement's flooded,
Okay, and there's never been a problem with his basement as well.
right.
That's just something I wanted to bring up.
I'm just more concerned that the floodplain line might go through the new addition if it wasn't properly marked on this plan.
Thank you.
So, okay.
The existing garage, where is it located now? Where the driveway is on the left of the house?
Well, it's now a family room.
That's correct. It's been remodeled. as
So
a
there's no
family-
garage?
There's no garage.
That's why he wants to put on the other side.
Correct.
But it wouldn't work putting a one-car garage on the other side with the addition upstairs.
I don't believe so. I mean, that would be something we'd have to look at, just based on the setback.
Right. Well, setback you'll make if it's 35, if it's 10 feet, you still have 25.2. But I'm just saying, I don't know what's upstairs that you could, if it's an attic or you could,
It's
You
an attic above that, right?
right, if you could get into there to make your room 24 by 24.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't have the layout of your house.
In other words, add a one-car garage to the left side
Right here,
of the parcel.
and then go 24 by 24 up on top. See, I just don't know.
Yeah, but I think they're trying to eliminate stairs.
Right.
So if they put a one-car garage just for the sake of having a garage, then you can go back to the other side and put the thing on piers and not have to be worried about the flood issue.
What about if you cock the garage, like on a 30-degree angle, towards the front of the house?
Oh, broken back.
We could do that. I'll be like this. Something like that. And this way he doesn't have to fill any wetlands.
Well, what about flood, though?
Well, I know, still need a floodplain elevation, that's the problem.
Yeah, but what I'm hearing is we need an accurate delineation of the floodplain.
All right, and also, see what I drew? You-
Off the,
Right,
this facing the
facing that way.
northeast.
I mean, there's no issues about filling in the wetlands.
Actually, if you look at the 100-foot review area line, that's pretty much the angle that you're referring
Yeah,
to.
right. You could even use that,
Right in the front.
you see the 100-foot review line?
Yeah.
Right,
Saying, yeah.
if you could use that angle,
Mhm. just come out in this area.
Correct.
Oh, your garage
For
will
the
be
drive.
facing that line,
Mm-hmm.
still.
Mm-hmm. It's a possibility.
That would impact his septic system that he has, though, right?
No, I think it'll fit. It's pretty much getting that cube and just turning it.
But he said his leaching field is in front of the proposed addition. So if he turns that proposed addition 30 degrees coming towards Mapledale Road, it's going to be on
leaching-
top of the leaching
The
field.
leaching field has to be on the other side of it, because the pipe is going into the tank and has to come out the other way. It can't be leaching between the addition. What do you think, Scott?
Should be.
The pipe shows going into the tank. It would have to come out the opposite way.
Yeah, makes sense.
I mean, it could come on the sides or directly across, but it can't go back towards the building.
Correct.
Right.
And the drain fields need to be parallel to the contour line, so that's the easiest way to figure out which way they're going.
Right.
So they could very well be angled.
Like that. So,
What system is the newest system? The one in the rear or the one in the front?
the one in the front, it was 72. Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Another question, are you planning on removing the old asphalt driveway?
Yes.
Okay.
So if he locates the floodplain line and also turns the garage, is there any other issues?
I think probably he wants to look at that and any other alternatives he
Right.
might
Well, I think
want to
that
consider.
Right. Okay, so we'll have a meeting, I mean, if you could get it done, we'll have another meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. For new business, looks like we don't have any. Old business, Castleberry Estates, anybody here? Scott, you want that with the other one?
For the record, my name is Nick Simonello with Godfrey Hoffman Associates in North Haven. I'm here on behalf of Castleberry Estates tonight to discuss this 5-lot subdivision located on 14.96 acres at 972 Garden Road. I was last here on April 22nd, at which point we discussed the proposal, and the commission had some questions, which I feel we have addressed, and we had several new submissions since last meeting. Per Ms. Ross's request, we submitted the soil report as well as the associated mapping, soil mapping. That was done by MB Soil Mapping, and that should be in your possession now. We also revised and resubmitted the stormwater management report and the 7-sheet site plan. Excuse me. So, per the commission's request, we also were asked to do soil testing, which we have completed in the area around the detention basin. And we found that the soil there was suitable to a certain extent for what we wanted to do. We found ledge at 6.5 feet, which was slightly higher than we expected. So what we did is we actually raised the bottom of the basin 1.5 feet, and as a result, we were required to extend it about 25 feet to the north and make it about 2 feet wider. It's no additional impact to the wetlands. It doesn't make the disturbance any closer to it, slightly larger, but as far as the distance goes, it's no nearer to the wetlands than it was previously. And with that, we feel that the soil conditions are completely suitable for our needs to put a detention basin in that area. One of the other concerns we had was to add an oil debris snout on CB2, which we have done, and we also added the detail and specifications for that. We added a curb to Lot 1's driveway per Fred Schumacher's request. And I believe that was it for what the commission requested on the 22nd. So if you have any additional questions, or if you'd like me to elaborate on anything else, I can do that now.
I assume you know that we just got these today, because they were delivered today?
Yes.
Okay.
I apologize for that. The owner of the property today, actually yesterday, was the earliest date that he could do the soil testing.
Okay.
So that's for the reason for the delay. I do apologize for that.
Do you know where, is that soil test for the drainage pond in here?
Yes, that's correct. It's in the site plan sheet, I believe. The results are on the bottom of sheet 3 of 7.
Okay.
As well as the perk test results.
I meant to go out there, but I didn't. This little wetland here on Lot 4, is there any standing water there?
No,
or
it's
just.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's just a little wet.
It's actually not wet at all currently. I was just out, like I said, I was out there yesterday or the day before, and it was dry. I walked past it, didn't even recognize it as wetlands.
Yeah, can you just point out to where that is on the map,
It is.
or maybe on your colored one,
It's yeah. Let me go back to the color.
please?
The area Ms. Ross is referring to is this little pocket of wetlands here, which is to the west of the proposed detention basin.
I'm going to need to have time to look at this before I can
Yeah,
ask any
that-
questions. But I did have a question. I think it may have been mentioned at the last meeting. This basin over here that's close to the wetland on Lot 4, there's a possibility of moving that up a little bit away from this the larger wetland. Is that the case?
Yeah, we did discuss that. In order to get it as an excavation, that was the most optimal place. If we were to move it, let's say to the southwest, which I think is where you requested last week, we would need to create a berm, and it adds to the disturbance because you're going to have to go up, over, and then back down, and it's just not as sturdy, I feel, as an excavation when you're dealing with a detention basin.
Well, actually, looking at this now, this goes so close to the wetland, and it's probably taking out a lot of trees. That's what's here. I'm trying.
Well, yes.
Yeah. Instead of moving it to the southwest, if you moved it up closer to where that little wetland is, and it looks like it's pretty flat.
That would be, that's fine for our application, and I'm sure the applicant would be fine for that. I was trying to split the difference between the wetlands to try and maximize the separation distance, but if that's something the commission would prefer, yeah, I could certainly scoot it up that way.
Well, I don't know as preferring, but maybe look at it as an alternative and see how it would work. Just because I think that maintaining that buffer on that larger wetland is really important.
Mm-hmm.
And that would do that, and especially if this small pocket is not a vernal pool and it's just a little wetland, it might be worth it to protect the other wetland.
Okay. I would imagine that the grading and the disturbance would be very similar to what we have now because it is a flat area. So, you could imagine just shifting it to the west there. And I don't think the disturbance or the grading would be any more severe or less if we did that.
It would just be farther away.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. So if the commission,
I would not say revise this plan, but maybe look at it as an alternative and, do
Okay.
a sheet of it so we can see what it would look like.
And as I mentioned, I do apologize for the late submission, but there weren't very many significant changes at all to this. As I mentioned, we put the snout, which is a very minor, easy change. It doesn't really affect anything, and the detention basin got slightly larger. But aside from that, there's really no physical changes to the plan. The rest of what was requested and discussed was just, additional information that was needed to complete the application. One additional thing that I did do is I took the soil map from the soil report and I put that on our site plan. Previously we had different delineation that was taken from the web soil survey, so this is a more accurate mapping of the soil on site is what we have now. So.
Which soil map did you overlay?
The one produced by MB Soil Mapping.
So in other words, there are points where field located and then put onto the plan?
Correct. We provided them with our survey, and they delineated their mapping on it, and then I transferred it back onto our survey.
Okay.
Is there anything else? I mean, I think we'll do, we'll just have them come back in 2 weeks, at least we could read the reports. So, is there anything else that anybody would like them?
May I interject? The soil report was actually submitted right after the April 22nd meeting. That was submitted a day or two after. As I mentioned, the only thing that's changed on the new plans is what I had previously mentioned. Time is a consideration from the applicant's point of view. He's pushing. He's in the spring season, and he would like to, start construction as soon as possible. And we do have planning and zoning ahead of us. So, I mean, it's just something to consider. I know he is. He's looking forward to starting construction as soon as possible.
I'd like to have time to look at your test pits and also the stormwater management report.
Okay, very well.
So, if there isn't anything else, in just 2 weeks, we'll, anything else, Scott? Or?
No, the soils report was sent to the commissioners after it was received, that they didn't just get that tonight. So what they are getting tonight is what was brought in today only, just so to clarify that for you.
Right, I just wanted to, try and make the point that really there was no changes from the earlier, very minor changes from the earlier submission. And, I was just, requesting that perhaps we could have a vote, but
you're just going to look into moving this basin over? I
know it's feasible,
right.
So if that's what the commission would request, I mean, we could certainly do that. I would hate to, I will show it, but,
you don't have to draw it out, but just look at it like...
Yeah, or maybe an 8.5 by 11 or something like that. Something just to make sure it can be done.
Okay.
I just think once you put these berms on this side, I don't know if that's going to be saved anyways.
I don't think the little wetland can be saved.
That's what I'm saying, right.
Right, but I think if he could move that back from the large wetland, right now there's only a 20-foot buffer. We might get maybe a 40-foot buffer or something like that. Which I think is more valuable to the wetland system than that little pocket of wetland there.
Okay, so we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Very good, thank you.
Thanks. Old business, 620 Racebrook Road, Whitney Acres, lot number 2. Still awake?
Hello, my name is Peter Olson. I'm the owner of Lot 2, Whitney Acres, or 630 Racebrook Road. After our last meeting, I talked to my engineer, and to comply with zoning, that's why the conservation easement is there. I know that you were asking about maybe giving that also to the open space, but then I would not be complying with the zoning. As far as, moving the house, I've consulted with my engineer, and we feel it's a fair request to ask to move the house back in return for the 1.5 acres of open space. The money that I spent to get the work done, we did that after my engineer met with Jim Zioli, and that's what they discussed. And he was going to be here. He was going to try being here tonight to speak also, but he said he might not make it.
If I'm not mistaken, the open space is already on the original plan. Is that right, or no?
Yes, but it wasn't, the zoning department did not want it.
Oh, I know,
Right.
but it still is in effect for wetlands. That doesn't change, if I'm not mistaken, right, Scott?
Yes, it did. The site plan changed and got filed without the open space as a Mylar, and the land was then given to the lot number 3 to the north.
You know what I'm saying?
Legally, it should not, it still should be there because that's what we approved. But
Right, that's what I'm saying, right,
But it's not there in reality.
right.
Don't we have on our permit that they're required to submit revised plans?
They do. We do. It was part of the permit. I believe in my conversation with Mr. Olson is that his understanding was that if he changed the plans and he revised them, that they would have to come back, not realizing that just because another department changed them, that he thought we all were working under the same flag, as it were, and if they didn't want it, then he wasn't going to argue with them. No, that was his misunderstanding of his permit.
Is the wording not clear?
I think it's pretty doggone clear.
Okay.
It's what, that was a borrow pit, I believe, is what that wetland was, and it's approximately 20 by 20.
Yes.
This is the new plan, right? Because the old plan, the house was up further.
Was up a little bit closer to the road, yes.
Right. And,
Sorry, I forgot to bring the old plan back.
that's
That one
fine.
back.
It was, I remember that the deck didn't touch the, yeah, I mean, I don't remember if the other one said, to leave it or not.
It was about 80 feet away.
was 80 feet away,
Memory
right?
serves me.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
So the only reason he came back was because he moved the house?
The reason why I'm coming back is because the town wanted this space in order for me to make sure everything complied. I
Right.
wanted to get everything approved before I gave him the piece. I didn't want to
Right.
give him the piece
Right,
and then
find out
later on come
can't
and find
build,
out I
right.
can't do anything.
Right.
So I wanted it all approved
Right,
before I gave the piece to the town.
right.
Right now I don't have a customer, the times are tough out there for me. I don't want to keep spending money. That's why on something I don't even, have a customer to do the house. I'm
Right.
trying to work with the town.
But the lot's approved already though, right?
It wasn't approved in this way. The subdivision had a lot of open space that's no longer there.
That's what happened. The zoning decided they didn't need the open space. They took it out, but they never brought the plans back to us.
And
So-
it wasn't in their minutes, and it wasn't in their approval letter that they rejected the open space.
But the original plan that we approved had open space, and the house was 80, it was the same spot, but 80 feet closer to Racebrook.
So technically, this is not in compliance with our permit.
So this is why you came back, relocation of the house, and he's gonna donate an easements to the town.
You know, and like I said, the maps were all designed after, you know, my engineer and Jim Zioli sat down and they went over it and discussed it. I was away when they
Yeah, I
discussed
know.
all this, and
That's what happens when you go on vacation.
This is an 80 scale map.
1 inch,
Which is 80 scale.
so half inch is 40.
I'm just weighing out what we just, Diane, what you just mentioned about the wetland pocket on this Castleberry that we just looked at. They're not too different in size as far as, and again, the Triton report on that said that that wetland had no value to it, and the BSC group didn't address it at all.
I guess the difference is moving the basin away gives it a lot of benefit to the wetland there. Having this closer, moving it away isn't going to make any difference in improving the side wetlands. It's kind of a trade-off on the other one.
I think, yeah, and again, back to, I think an acre and a half of open space around the wetlands is a trade-off too.
Well, there's really not too much we could do about this. I mean, it was approved the first time with this open space. Could have been a little bit different. It could have been all open space instead of the easement. But relocating the house 40 or 50 feet close to the Racebrook is not going to change the open space, you know? So, since he's working with us and giving us back the open space that was approved originally, I mean, everything else is approved. There's nothing
Yeah,
changed.
well, it's just the portion on this property. because
Right.
we don't have the open
No,
space
no, I
on
know,
the
it's
other
just a
one.
portion, but this does connect to the other pieces. So, anyone like to entertain a motion?
I agree with Rick. I think that the open space that we're gaining, based on an administrative snafu from zoning, the builder has gone over and above board to try to meet an open space request on the part of the town. And in view of that, I think we should approve it.
I feel the same way.
Like anyone make that into a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
We have a second? Any discussion?
I would just like to say that I think that if this revision had been brought back, we could have resolved this before we were in this position.
Oh, I agree. Well, I mean, as soon as something was changed, I don't know if the wording has to be changed, just so, meaning the client or the builder versus the zoning, it's a change.
Any deviation
Oh, I know.
from the approved site plan.
Right, so.
That's, I don't know how
Right,
much clearer it can be.
If zoning changed, it's a change.
I think when
Right.
the approval letter came from zoning and when the minutes from zoning should have reflected something so that there was a red flag, at least to us, So that the developer in his mind thinking, hey, I tried to give it to you, you didn't want it, I didn't change the plan, you guys did. And
No.
again, I think that's where the whole,
Is it possible to red stamp a plan that
We-
goes to zoning, and they have to sign off on the same red stamp that you sign off?
Paul and I have talked about that at length since this, and we are trying to come up with some way that one plan works its way through, and if it doesn't work its way through, at least we know we're going to, the
Right,
same
'cause if
plan
it's
is
red,
going to come
if-
back.
right, if it's red stamped and you signed it, and then if zoning won't sign it, it's gonna be a different plan. Then at least we know it's gonna come back.
Right, and you
Right.
may require other changes that have no impact on the wetland, but we still need to have it follow through the
Right.
process. And I think that's something that, this was such a major
Right,
change to this subdivision.
right,
That's just slid under the radar so badly.
yeah.
And again, I have to say, I gotta take some of the hit because, and so does the commission, we all looked at Lot 3 when it came back. We asked it to come for him to bring
Right.
it back. He brought it back to us. We did review it, and none of us noticed that line had been changed. So, again, I don't,
Right.
this one really slid under the radar big time, and he's
Yeah.
made every effort possible to try to rectify it.
Okay. So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I think it passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Carries. Thank you. Thanks, Peter.
Okay. Enforcement officers report. Anything?
Actually, I did have one. Is there any other old business?
There is old business? Oh,
Nope. Okay. 470 Herbert Street. Was doing an inspection up on Wolcott Lane. On my way back, I noticed a forest gone. Turns out it was a backyard. Right to a wetland line. Mostly all of what was disturbed was upland. However, all the brush and debris and the stumps were dumped in the wetland. So they've been
it's just a
given-
homeowner?
homeowner.
He did it himself, or?
Did it himself. They'd been clearing trees for several years. The house is here, there's a large hillside here, and there were a lot of trees that they were worried about falling down. But the backyard was heavily overgrown for a good number of years because the house had been owned by elderly people. The younger
Right.
couple bought it. And after a couple of years of being there, they decided they needed more room for their 3 kids. And just started clearing. The gentleman that had the chainsaw in his hand, we had a little bit of a language issue. Turns out he was the father of the property owner. But I gave them 30 days, otherwise the fines would start to incur.
So I assume he's gonna do some planting, or?
The
Or-
upland, I mean, it
or
was
leave-
all upland.
So
but
we take the stumps out and
Get
all
the
that?
stumps out, take all the brush out, keep the little bobcat machine out of the mud, out of the
Okay,
skunk
right.
cabbage, and go from there.
Are they gonna remove what they pushed, it sounds like they pushed stuff into the wetland?
Yeah, that's all has to come out.
Okay, and in the upland, was that a forested or a lawn with trees?
Most of it was autumn olive and multiflora rose with about 4 or 5 trees that had, the autumn olive and the multiflora rose had worked its way up the lawn that had been there at one time, given that I used to go by that house sometimes 8-10 times a day. It was only 5 houses away from where I used to live. So it was only over the past probably 4 or 5 years that you had like this early successional, trying to reforest.
See what happens when you move?
But the majority of what was there was invasives.
Okay.
That was part, that was okay. They got rid of the invasives, except they dumped them into the wetland.
Well, they're probably gonna start growing in the wetland now.
Well,
You
depends how
think?
fast he takes them out.
Yeah, I mean, he asked for, one of the stumps was quite large, and he told me that I didn't understand what he was trying to do with the stump was he dumped it upside down so it could be rained on for the next year or so and get washed off so he could then cut it up and use it for firewood. I said, well, you're going to have to do that on the backyard. But we did have some language barriers. But I believe everybody understands everybody at this point. The letter did go out last Thursday or Friday. And
What are they going to do along the edge of the wetland? Are they going to do some plantings, at least to get back a little bit of a buffer?
they have actually, there was a row of, and I told them that they need to change their plans, but they had already started a row of apple and pear trees on the north side of the property, and they were going to wrap that around the back of the house, around the wetland, but so they're not going to grow on wet feet. They're going to need to do something else, and when I go back out, which is supposed to be in 2 weeks, to see what their progress is, invited back out in 2 weeks to see what their progress is. I will
Apples and pears.
swing by and see how progress is going sometime the end of this week. But they were going to, they asked me to give them a list of what type of trees that they should have that can grow both in that transitional zone, and that is the plan. They do want to put trees back. That's part of their plan, and they have spent considerable dollars, from what I can tell, on trees already. It's just what they were planning for that transition zone I don't think is the right trees. Maybe we can get some high bush blueberry or something to that effect in there. Some
Another nice plant for an area like that is silky dogwood, because it tends to take over.
Yep.
And I don't know how much light you have there, but amelanchier might be a good tree, or...
Plenty of light now. Actually, I mean, they really didn't take much canopy out. I mean, it was lawn. It was mostly just so overgrown with the invasives.
Well, even if they can get a short canopy in there, that would be good to kind of shade that too, along the edge of whatever's left.
No, the big, tall, 50, 60-foot oaks are all still around that fringe, so that part is okay.
But like, you know, if you get the short canopy on the side of the tall ones, it'll shade a little lower. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, I think that part's going to be okay. That's it for me.
That's it. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 27th. Do we have a motion?
No further business, I move to adjourn.
We have a motion, we have a second? Second. I assume everybody's in favor for that.